Young, new U.S. lawmakers that are essentially fabricating their life stories around being Jewish. Now, the latest Republican Congresswoman from Florida, Anna Paulina Luna, she touted her quote-unquote Jewish roots on the campaign trail. Well, she's now seen her extended family refute those claims. Even dropped the bomb that her grandfather fought for Nazi Germany in World War II. Well, this story, of course, comes right on the heels of the high-profile case of New York Congressman George Santos, forced to walk back his claims that he was outright Jewish and had apparently fabricated many other elements of his resume. So this maybe speak to what's happening there. But to discuss this more now, we're joined in the studio by Blake Flayton, Executive Director of the New Zionist Congress and a weekly columnist for the Jewish Journal. Blake, thanks for being with us on this. I say baffling, is a term that just sort of leads my thoughts going into this. But, we see Representative Luna, Representative Santos, both Republicans. I don't even know if that has anything to do with the story at all. Different stories, behind each of them here. So I have trouble sort of batching them. Their life backgrounds are so different. The areas of the country they're in. Are we looking at just sort of serial liars? What's your take on seeing this, especially the Jewish angle?
Right. Well, you mentioned it in the beginning when you said that it might have something to do with these representatives and where they are in the country and what their constituency looks like in their individual districts. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think there is a national trend across the country, not just with these representatives, to use the Jewish identity, to use the Jewish culture as sort of as a political game, right? To view the Jewish people as a unit that they can either siphon votes from or lose votes. And there really is not a lot of respect for our culture, for our peoplehood, for our genuine concerns as a community. And they throw out this Jewish identity card, which has no basis in historical fact. Congresswoman Luna said something about how she was raised as a Messianic Jew, which of course just means Christian in our contemporary connotation.
Jew for Jesus, perhaps, yeah.
Right, a Jew for Jesus, perhaps. And it's to curry support among their constituents when it really has no factual basis, and that's what we're seeing in these particular cases.
I was looking that up. I mean, the districts where they come from. Florida's 13th, the district around, I think a lot of areas around New York City, where Santos is, just east of Brooklyn, those areas, north of there a little bit. There are Jews certainly in these areas.
Of course.
I don't know what percentage they make up of these districts, but maybe there's just a hard, savvy calculation on their part. Say, hey, I can win these more votes. I mean, we see lawmakers around the U.S. catering to Jewish votes in other ways without saying, hey, I'm Jewish as well. Where does this cross the line to sort of take on another identity? And does it have to do with Jews? Do you think is there something rooted in this, or is this more a choice they've made to put on a different face?
Right. Well, I think these two examples are definitely the most extreme exampals that we have, or the most blatant, maybe, examples that we have. High profile. But I think this stems from a deep-seated belief in a variety of politicians, and it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats, that the Jewish constituency, that Jewish communities within their districts have a lot more power and have a lot more interest, and they have a lot more influence than they actually do. And you can, make the argument whether this is, this comes from anti-Semitic conspiracies or anti-Semitic exaggerations or beliefs, or it could just be cultural. People think that in order to get as many votes as possible and to kind of run up the score, they have to do things to curry favor with this community that has an exaggerated influence on how elections turn out.
Look, outside of Jewish identity things, which could be baffling in its own way, but we have like Elizabeth Warren, who was ridiculed by Trump as Pocahontas, for claiming Native American heritage. Rachel Dolezal, if I'm saying her name right, who was a major, at least posing as an African American figure, to be totally outed as not that. I think this was in 2017 or so. It's wider than this. I mean, we see other high-profile cases. You were just telling me about a professor you had who was doing some.
Yes, there was a professor at GW who had built her entire career and had received many prestigious awards and was beloved by many distinguished scholars in the United States on the basis that she was an African American researcher, professor, and activist, and it turned out to be the case that she was not African American.
Okay, so this is, and there's a lot of outrage that comes with this. Are we seeing that in the Jewish community right now? Is there outrage coming out towards, Luna and Santos? I haven't detected that.
I don't think there's a lot of outrage, to be honest.
Scratching the head.
I think a lot of Jews have a sense of humor, and I think we think it's funny, and because it's so preposterous, and because it's so outlandish, and also because, when you have a case where someone descends from Nazis, obviously someone is not responsible for what their grandparents did, but you have someone whose personal history lies in such stark contrast with the Jews' personal history. I don't think we have any choice but to kind of scratch our heads and giggle at the absurdity of it all.
Look, you're huge in social media. I mean, what do you see in this other world, essentially, where you can put on any face you want to be? I mean, a lot of people can rep as, how far does that go, in the world of social media, where people are sort of repping as minorities or as others?
Right. Well, I do think it, especially in the 21st century, especially in the age of social media, at a time when identity politics sort of reign supreme, I think people understand that they can acquire social capital by claiming that they identify with a marginalized community, by claiming that they, have ancestry from this aggrieved group or community. I think it gives them bona fides, and they foolishly assume that nobody's going to fact check this, that no one's going to do their due diligence and research.
Yeah, I think especially when you're running for Congress or something high profile, you'd be a little, at least think about that.
Of course.
Blake Flayton, good to have you. Fascinating topic, baffling, head scratching. Appreciate you being with us. It's
Appreciate
what we're talking about. Thanks. And now we